Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerd Station. I am Cabin Black, your host. Nerd Station Network is a brand new channel, YouTube channel that I have started. I have various things going on. I'll get into that another time, another day. But this uh, video I am creating right here, this content that I'm making right here, is specifically to go over a reading. I read an article that I thought was very troubling, to say the least. Troubling, not in a bad way, but in more of a questionable way. See, I'm an American. From, me being from the black community in America, I grew up with a particular type of lens to see life through a particular type of view, a world view. Over time, I have developed my own way of thinking, how I induce and deduce things. So I came across this article here entitled, by the way, it's coming from levelman.com. The article is entitled, Why Japanese Anime Struggles with Portraying Black Characters. So before I get into this article, I just want to make it clear and make it known that I am an anime fan. I am a manga fan. I love Japanese cultures. I was in the military, stationed in Japan. Lived there for about a year. I live in Asia now, and I consider myself very much a person who is appreciative of the Asian cultures and Asian people groups, Asian nations, ethnicities, etc. Once again, as I said earlier, I have my own worldview though, and how I see things particular is just how I see them. We all have our own opinions and how we choose to take on thoughts or ideas and things that are important to us, where we take them on as such. So for me, being a person who enjoys sociology, I'm back in school. Not that you probably need to know that, but working on my master's here. And I started to really appreciate sociology and social sciences as I gotten older. And what I realized growing up when I was a kid, I was a big Dragon Ball fan, Dragon Ball Z fan, Dragon Ball GT. Well, maybe not so much GT, but Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I loved, I'm not too sure if this is an anime, but, well, I guess it would be an anime. I like the Sailor Moon series. I like the Fist of the North Star series, Fist of the North Star, let me say it that way. I enjoy all types of versions of anime, like Bleach, even though I really don't, I'm not the biggest fan of Bleach, but I like the concept. I like One Punch Man, okay? One Piece is okay, I'm getting into that. I know it's been around for a very long time, but I just started recently getting into that. Let me just say, I am a nerd, I am a black nerd, but I recently rediscovered myself in this nerddom, if you will, as a black nerd. I typically look to observe and watch other YouTubers and listen to other podcasts of other black nerds who give their takes and their reactions to what's going on in the anime world. So I have been privileged to be under their tutelage, if you will, to study after them. Also, relatives in my family who are into anime more than I am, I take after them as well. So getting back into this whole gaming and the anime world has been a journey for me. And so I don't want to come off the wrong way, and I don't want you, the viewer, the audience, to take what I'm saying in a negative light. I greatly appreciate Asian cultures, Asian history, Asian ethnicities and nationalities, and I respect the Asian people groups and the Asian peoples as such. Just want to say that. I don't want to say that because that's like a, speaking of an opposite or a conjecture, I don't want to do that. At the same time, I definitely appreciate my own honesty when it comes to how I think and how I feel, if you will, about representation. I know we can go beyond representation, and I think it's far too long that anime has had time to deal with getting to a point of where it can reach a stage of reconstruction, if you will, to evaluate how representation should be improved and how representation is important as such. And I know some history here. I know a lot more history than the common person as it pertains to Asia. I know a lot of different things that most people probably wouldn't even consider or even know, even in 2026. I do understand that there are indigenous Black Asians, all the way from New Zealand to West Papua to Guam to the Philippines to Indonesia to Malaysia to Thailand, okay, even in China, even in Japan. The ratio or the populace that the indigenous Chinese and or Taiwanese, the indigenous Japanese, the Tome, if I'm saying it right, the Tome tribes, just to name one, are particular tribes that are indigenous to Asia. And in times past, understanding like North Korea, South Korea, Cambodia, Nepal, looking at, or even in Vietnam, looking at all the older pictures and understanding the history once again, that Asia initially embraced a Black nationality. Yes, Asia embraced a Black nationalism prior to the 19th century. I do understand also that Asia has been radically changed politically. Their landscape has changed drastically since the 19th century. Actually, beginning at the 19th century, what was introduced to Asia by way of Europe, Eastern Europe particularly, the Russian Europe, or the part of Europe that is Russia, I understand that there was a ratification or something that had happened to the Asian people that changed not just how they thought about themselves, but also changed how they portrayed themselves in the arts, in their pictures, and even to the point of skin bleaching. And also miscegenation, the mixing between white Eurogenetics and also Asian genetics, understanding how that has taken a place and a role in colonization, as white Euros have colonized Asia and also enslaved Asia. Not every country in Asia was enslaved, but majority of them were. And I understand and know about the Pacific slave trade, the silver slave trade here in Asia. I also know about the Silk Road, the slave trade that happened during that time as well. And getting back to the pictures, I understand that as well. Hopefully you will understand and you can do your own research as well to verify what I'm saying to be true or not. But this is a fact. Look at the old pictures of Korea, the old pictures of Vietnam, the old pictures of Japan, the old pictures of China, the old pictures of the Philippines, the old pictures of the West Papua, the old pictures of Indonesia. the old pictures of Malaysia, of Cambodia, the old pictures of Nepal, the old pictures of Laos, the old pictures of India, the old pictures of Pakistan, the old pictures of Lebanon, the old pictures of Yemen, the old pictures of Jordan, the old pictures of Palestine. Coming all the way around again, the old pictures, even of Guam. Okay? The old pictures. And then cross-referencing them with the pictures that we have today. One could assume, and one could really deduce, something that I have done. Looking and comparing these two pictures, I have seen that there is a major difference in the representation and the phenotype of the Asians of yesteryears, during the 18th centuries and 19th century, even the 20th century, till now, the 21st century. There has been a huge change. Not just in their politics, but also in their appearance. Now, understanding that there is, in my country, let me say it this way, in my country, the United States of America, my government already understands that there is a global crisis when it comes to skin bleaching. The number one importer of skin bleaching products is Asia. So I am not fully aware or fully learned, because I don't know everything. But what I do know is that Asia has two different worlds. The old world and this new world. And the people who resemble the old world of Asia, the indigenous people who look like me, and if you're quote unquote black, look like you, they have a different experience than what the modeled majority of Asia looks like, and even in their politics. Once again, this is not a jab. I'm not doing a one punch here. Okay? I'm not doing a blame game. What I am doing is simply going over the information that I know. And when I am presenting this information to you, my audience, or future audience, that you may understand where I'm coming from, that I have total empathy. As an empath, I have empathy for the Asian people, particularly, but specifically for the indigenous people. For, yes, we are akin, we are brothers and sisters, we are cousins, we are relatives, we are siblings, of course, from a long ways away, of course, in history and time. But the genetics, you can't beat that. So I'm going to read this article, and I'm just going to give you my reaction to it. So hopefully, you will be able to understand where I'm coming from. And as I give my reaction to it, hopefully you don't take it to heart, but hopefully you will hear from what I'm saying. For I am invested in Asia, and I'm invested in my people here in Asia, who I consider my people. Call me crazy, call me whatever, but I'm going to tell you what I think. So let's get into this article here. This article, once again, is coming from levelman.com. This article is entitled, Why Japanese Anime Struggles with Portraying Black, quotations, I'm putting quotations, black characters. The subtitle, The Genre's Stereotypes, Slow Improvement and Hope. The article is written by LG Ware, June 22nd, 2025. It's about 9-minute read. I'll just get into it, starting at the beginning. Many people around the world love Japanese anime. Dragon Ball is broadcast in 80 countries, and One Piece is available on Netflix in 93 countries. I was particularly moved by the story of Yuzuki, your Rameshia from Yuhu or Yu Hakusho when I was a child. I could relate to Yuzuki's hard exterior and his internal desire to help others. He didn't look like me, but he walked a path I was struggling with at the time. Yu Hakusho was a story from the other side of the world, but it was a very human story. Decades later, my black students are just as enthralled by anime and manga. I have watched kids who will otherwise refuse to open a book consume volumes of manga. Despite the love black people have for anime, there are few black characters. In the speech impediment. And the melanin-laced characters that do exist feature offensive stereotypes. The influence on these portrayals can easily be traced to the following. The following includes black minstrels. To understand why black representation in anime and manga can be offensive, one needs to understand the history of minstrel shows. Minstrel shows started in the 1830s, which is the 19th century, and were ingrained in American culture by the 1850s. They usually present black characters using negative stereotypes, dumb, lazy, etc. They reduce black people to little more than animals. The shows are most notorious for having white people portray black characters using blackface. The actors would use burned cork or later grease paint or shoe polish to emulate black skin. They would exaggerate the lips by making them big and red, creating a clownish look. The stereotypes established in those shows still impact how black people are viewed today. Japan had limited experience with real black people, but they observed what was presented in America, and this shaped their art. Now, let me say this. That statement is a bunch of bull s. It's a bunch of BS. You know why it's BS? Because during the 1850s, the black Asians in Japan were still there. See, a lot of people don't know that, once again, this is not a jab at Asia, but this is history. A lot of people don't know that the Japanese and the Chinese created different nationalisms, a carbon copy of their various types of white Eurasianism. And in doing so, to please their white Euro masters, or previously who were their white Euro masters, and also to gain interest in the capitalism and participating in that, and the Industrial Revolution, as they were gaining their freedoms from slavery and or colonization, or a type of colonization. One of the agendas that was carried out was a type of eugenic program where China and Japan and various other countries as such in Asia have committed a genocide against its own people. They have committed a genocide against the indigenous, many of the indigenous Chinese and Japanese, who were quote unquote black Asians, or as this article said, melanated, who look like me, and if you're black, look like you. This is history. You can look this up. So, in knowing this, They have black skin. A lot of them, once again, looking at the pictures. Look at old pictures from the 19th century and the early 20th century of Japan and China. And then look at the pictures of today. You will see a striking difference. And if you don't see it, I question if you have eyes. And I have to ask a second question if you're colorblind. So, nonetheless, getting back to the article here, I think it's BS. That statement was total BS. This is not a jab at the writer. LG Ware. This is not a jab at you. Or nor is it a jab at levelman.com, nor is it a jab at Asian people. I am just speaking the fact. So what is presented as a fact here is that Japan had limited experience with real black people. Japan has had their real black people. No, there may still be Japanese who are indigenous, who are of the melanated persuasion, who are indigenous and are black Asians that still exist there. I'm pretty sure they are. Most likely they're probably in very small populations. And if I could think, maybe they may be in the mountains somewhere in extreme poverty. This is not uncommon in Asia. But, once again, this is not a jab. But, to look at the reality. So, the artwork of how the portrayal of black Americans were to the people is that the people of Japan is that they took on the stereotypes. Now that was part of white Eurasianism program or the anti-black systems. See, during this time, there's an author named Zora Neale Hurston. She created a essay entitled The Pet Negro System. The Pet Negro System, simply put, is an anti-black system, propaganda and demagoguing. But a system nonetheless that actually fueled in capitalism, in American capitalism. See, American exceptionalism at that time was just another variety of white Eurasianism. Not that I'm trying to give you a history lesson, but I'm just trying to let you know that I am informed. I don't know everything. And I may be misquoting things, and I may have to correct some of the things I say, even in this video, and that's fine, because no one knows everything. But what I do know, I try to be, and most definitely am, to be confident in. Now, once again, I think that sentence is BS. Because there is one who gave a quote, and it's on my Substack, Cabin Black. You can look this quote up there. This is coming from a book dealing with the Asian slave trade, dealing with the Trans-Pacific slave trade. This is a quote coming from the history books by scholars, by those who are way more smarter than me and probably way more smarter than you. The quote goes like this. Now I'm paraphrasing. During the 1600s, which is the 17th century, Chinos and black or Negroes was a term and an identity tied to slaves that came from Asia and Africa. Speed up. That's before I speed up. That was during the 17th century. Here we have it in 1850, 2 centuries later. What do we see? Now we're talking about Non-melanated people? Since when has Asians been non-melanated? That's a question. Maybe a hypothetical question, but a question nonetheless. When has Asians ever been non-melanated? And when did Asians stop having indigenous black people altogether? Even though there has been a genocide throughout Asian countries, Japan and China, just to mention, China and Japan, as I previously had mentioned before. But one has to consider this statement here. The stereotypes established in those shows still impact how black people are viewed today. If that is true, and that's a part, that part of the statement that LG Ware has made, that's 100% accurate. That's true. Japan had limited experience with real black people. So the black people that they have in Asia aren't real black people? Since when? Oh, is that part of American exceptionalism, Western thought? Is that a part of what Eurasianism, Eastern thought? All vestiges of colonization, all vestiges of slavery. I'll continue reading. Japan had limited experience with real black people, but they observed what was presented in America. And this shaped their art. How convenient. I said that respectfully. For black kids my age, Dragon Ball was peak anime, and it was. Unfortunately, all of their black characters, there weren't many, took inspiration from minstrels. Mr. Popo is the most offensive example. He is most generously described as the servant to Earth's guardian. He has black skin, wide eyes, and thick red lips. These lips, I've heard them called donut lips, can be found on many black anime characters. Even Pokemon, a franchise about little monsters, made room for racist caricatures. Jinx was probably the most humanoid pocket monster. It had long hair and wore a dress, but for some reason, they chose to give it black skin and Mr. Popo donut lips. I remember being called Jinx as a child. It was a good insult, okay, targeting my masculinity and dark skin simultaneously. Sure. I understood that Pokemon were diverse creatures in all shapes and sizes, but Jinx always stood out to me. Why was it so different? What motivated someone to create an animal that looks like that? That was a question. Professor Amy Sharong Lu says, quote, "From the very beginning, Pokemon was intended in part for export, and the production team aimed for a universal feel acceptable to international audiences," end quote. Just think about that for a second. Okay, cool. All right, continue reading. Reading this, I asked myself, what would draw American audiences to Pokemon? Is it the whimsical nature of the creatures? Is it the dragons and the opportunity to trade with friends? Nah, Americans really love racism. We need to throw some of that in there. I can only assume this was the thought process in creating Jinx. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Sister Crone from Promised Neverland is a more modern example of a black character falling into minstrel tropes. It is less obvious than Mr. Popo and Jinx. Her skin isn't unrealistically black, and her lips are still big, but more believable. However, unlike Mr. Popo and Jinx, Sister Crone falls victim to the other harmful stereotypes. She is the mammy stereotype. If you don't know what mammy is, please go look it up. Modeled after a character like Aunt Jemima. If you don't know who Aunt Jemima is, look it up. Mammies come from the minstrel world and depict black women as domesticated caregivers who are happy with their enslavement. Aunt Jemima is the most famous example of this stereotype. Michael Twitty, a historian and author, said, quotations, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and Ratus, the cream of wheat man, were actually meant to be stand-ins for what white people viewed as a generation of formerly enslaved black cooks, now lost to them. As mascots, they were designed to be perceived by those white people as nothing more, and to have wanted to be nothing more than loyal servants. In a frightening time of growing black equality and empowerment, end quote. Promised Neverland is explicitly a show about an oppressive society, so bringing in a black character, people known for being oppressed, feels purposeful, especially when she is presented in contrast to Sister Isabella. Isabella presents as white or traditionally Japanese. Now, I got a problem with that statement. Or I have an opportunity, or I have a call out, or I would like to react to that statement. Isabella presents as Sister Isabella. Isabella presents as white or traditionally Japanese. Traditionally Japanese. What does that mean? In retrospect, I know it has a working definition, but I'm not asking what the definition is. I'm asking in reality, when you use your mind, have an open mind, expand your imagination, okay? And look at the reality of the pictures. Look at the old Japanese pictures. What is white about them? The pictures from the 18th century, the pictures from the 19th century. What is white about them? Now, I can throw in there, if you go to my Substack, let me just say this, if you go to my Substack and you check out the information, you have to scroll through a couple minutes of scrolling through, but you will see different figurines or mini or miniature statues, or just statues of Japanese characters and or people. All of them have what you will call black features. Some of them actually have darker skin painted on them. Now, some may say that, well, this is a traditional color for this, and Asia used colors for this. Asia, everything that comes from Asia comes from Africa. Do a little research about who the Anu are, who the Negritos are, not just the Negritos in Southeast Asia, or in East Asia, or in West Asia. But do the history on who the Anu are and the Kushites. You should probably go check out my Cafe Witch podcast, by the way. I cover a little bit of that history. A little bit of that history is covered. Cafe Witch Podcast. Okay. So now, getting back to Nerd Station Network here, going over this article here. Looking at those statues and those figurines, it's easily can be seen that these people who created these figurines clearly aren't white people. And clearly don't look like the Asians or the people of Japan today. The pictures from the 18th century, 19th century don't look like Japan today. So I'm kind of trying to figure out, in theory, not in actuality or in practice, but just to think about it, what does it mean to be traditional Japanese in your look? And then I have to ask, is that really traditional? No, once again, traditional Japan or traditional Japanese may have a working definition. I'm sure that it does. But nonetheless, these statements, these claims that are being made here, and then once again, this is not a jab or a punch at LG Wear. This is just a reaction, calling some things out. I continue reading. Isabella presents as white or traditionally Japanese, as if those are synonymous, and they're not. But what is being pushed in this text right here, in this statement, is white Eurasianism. I'm not sure what LG Wear knows or doesn't know, but clearly they're bending to a political arc and a political viewpoint that is tailored in the fabrics of Asian society, which is white Eurasianism, which Asians were radicalized to believe during the late 19th century. Okay. Isabella presents as white or traditionally Japanese. She is soft, nurturing, cunning, and feminine. Isabella is a threat to the children in the story because of her intelligence. That's very interesting. Crone is strong, fast, and animalistic. Black women have always had their femininity stripped from them. Now that's true. That's very much true. Crone is strong, fast, and animalistic. Black women have always had their femininity stripped from them. Even now, black women are constantly accused of being not feminine enough, quotation. Sister Crone seems to represent all of this. She is a threat to the children because of her blackness. Now, why is being fast, strong, being strong, being fast, being like an animal, or being not feminine enough? How does that equate to blackness? That's not what blackness is, not to me. That's not what blackness is to me. Those are attributes of people in general. People can be strong, people can be fast, and people can be animalistic. But it's not tied to blackness. Like people can be going back up to describing Sister Isabel. People can be soft, people can be nurturing, people can be cunning, people can be feminine. That's not a traditional Japanese, or nor is it presenting as white. That's not whiteness, not to me. On the contrary, history will show that whiteness, it's the creme de la creme to everything that is more or less comparable to evilness. I'm speaking factually. I'm not speaking from my emotions. Look at history. Whiteness has done more horrible, animalistic things. Whiteness, speaking of white Eurogenetical people, they have done more horrible things. But somehow, they're viewed, white and traditional Japanese, somehow are viewed as soft, nurturing, cunning, and feminine, and intelligent. And somehow blackness is the antithesis of all of that. Clearly, if you look at history, that's not the case. Once again, go check out my Substack. You can see that the most technology that we use today, that's modern technology, comes from black people groups. The geniuses that humanity produces, who have created majority of all the technology that we use, are birthed are created, are nurtured through the masculine and the feminine, the masculinity and the femininity, and the genius and the intelligence, the intellect of black people groups. That's a fact. You can look it up. And if you need to look it up somewhere, you can go to my Substack, Caden Black. Caden Black. Go to my Substack, you can check it out. I have a lot of examples there. All right, continue reading. I'll read it again, starting at Crone. Crone is strong, fast, and animalistic. Black women have always had their femininity stripped from them. Even now, black women are constantly accused of being not feminine enough. Sister Crone seems to represent all of this. She is a threat to the children because of her blackness. The idea of black people being closer to animals is an old one. Even when Crone chases the children, she moves more like an animal than a human. Admittedly, Crone is a complex character, but like many black characters built around stereotypes, she is dismissed and killed, while the more important non-black characters regain all the focus. So, a few manga artists made some slightly racist pictures. They probably didn't understand the social context. What's the problem? That's the question. So, I got a problem with that statement, or an opportunity with that statement, or that statement is in question. It's questionable. They probably didn't understand the social context. I doubt that. I highly doubt that. Why? Because according to him, this is not a job at LG Care. Excuse me, at LG Wear. Say LG Care. LJ Wear. LG Wear. According to LG Wear, traditional Japanese people, speaking of women, Japanese women, According to him, traditional Japanese are soft, nurturing, cunning, feminine, as far as the women, and intelligent. So you mean to tell me, if that is his running definition of what whiteness is, or what traditional Japan or traditional Japanese, or what it means to be traditional Japanese, focusing on the intelligent part, then one would have to understand and see that this don't make no sense. This doesn't make any sense. How could these manga artists who created these slightly racist characters, this is what he's saying, slightly racist pictures, and then make the claim they probably didn't understand the social context? Who believes that? But he's writing to a particular audience who thinks a particular way, using coded language. So I'll continue. His last point is, what's the problem? Question. Continuing, to be clear, I'm not offended by these characters, and neither am I. Not necessarily. I think it's problematic, or I think I have an opportunity here, or I think it needs to be reacted to, it needs to be discussed, and it needs to be resolved, and there has to be some type of reconstruction here in anime, I think, when it pertains to the anime characters and manga characters, and also comic book characters, and representation as such, going beyond representation, going beyond it. But to be clear, I'm not offended by these characters. In fact, I'm a fan of Sister Chrome. The problem, however, is how these stereotypes are often the only representation people get. When I was in college, I met a guy from Poland. He said he didn't meet a black person in real life until he came to America. Like Japan, Poland has a very small black population. He thought all black people were like the ones he had seen on television. He even believed we got lighter when we bathed. So clearly, LG Ware is either a person of color or he's black. But that's not neither here nor there. I don't think that's really in context to what I'm saying here. What I'm really hinting at is that, yeah, a gentleman from Poland that he met, that's his experience. But that experience is it's not an isolated one. The representation that people get is based upon what they see on television. Back then in the 1850s, through comic book strips, or through the mangas, or the anime, or what they've seen on the newspapers, or in commercial ads, or whatever type of form of communication that they had when dealing with pictures. Also dealing with the pictures that they had in postcards, which Asians were on postcards too. This is where it doesn't make any sense, because during this time, it's clear that Asians are black. 1850s, there's plenty of postcards you can look at. You can go on my Substack, Caden Black. You can see a lot of the postcards there. From Asia, from India all the way to Malaysia, all the way to the Philippines. Okay? There's postcards of people who are from Asia, who look just like me, and if you're black, look just like you. So if he's equating the experience of Poland, someone who he met that was Polish or from Poland, knowing the history about that, that's in question. That's something to go over and study about. You can go over to my podcast, Cafe Wish Podcast, and I go over some of these things dealing with Eastern Europe. Right? Check out some of my material there, some of my content there. I think you'll like it. If you have an open mind and you can expand your imagination, you're a free thinker, I think you'll like it. But nonetheless, okay. Continue to read here. Well, actually, before I read, let me continue to react. So, a lot of the representation. So now in the 21st century, the model minority in America is the Asian, or people from Asia, right? Typically, or traditionally. Knowing that, then now I'm thinking about Asia and then the traditional Japanese, according to L.G. Ware, that the traditional Japan is intelligent. Well, if that's the case, and I'm not saying that they're not. If they're that intelligent, in which I'm saying that they should be, because that's what he's making the claim of. So I'm just happens for the sake of the context of what I'm saying, for the sake of what I'm trying to communicate here, let's just say that they're intelligent as much as he says that they are, in which I don't doubt that they are. Then they should be able to put 1 and 1 together to make 2. 1 and 1 should not make 10. 1 and 1 should make 2. So if they're intelligent enough to do that, then they should be intelligent enough to know that what they see on television is just a representation of something, of something or of a thing, and not the reality of, especially knowing that they've been radicalized by white Eurasianism. And even if they don't know that, they should know the history that they had genocides and committed genocide against their own people. And let's say hypothetically they don't even know that. They have pictures. They have museums. You mean to tell me that they don't know that there are black Japanese people indigenous? They don't know that there are Asians who are black, who are indigenous to Asia? Who are real black people? They're not American black. American black is a particular ethnicity. There's tons of different types of black people in Africa and outside of Africa, and who are indigenous to other continents. There's 6 continents which we can live upon. Each continent has indigenous black people on it. But if he's comparing to the Poland gentleman to Japan people, which is not 1-to-1, what he's combining here, or what he's speaking to, is white Eurasianism. That's what he's speaking to. But in my view and how I'm seeing it, I don't speak to that. But nonetheless, this experience that people have, claiming, oh, I don't really experience black people enough. Clearly, if you are an intelligent group of people, and I don't doubt that Japanese people are intelligent, you mean that they don't pick up books to really read and study and know? Even now, we have the internet, we have, if you have Wi-Fi and a laptop or a mobile device, you can look up all these things. And you can look up all different types of black people, and even Asian black people. So to have an excuse, because they've seen it on TV, it doesn't fly with me. Does it fly with you? Don't fly with me. All right. Okay. Continue reading from this paragraph. He said he didn't meet a black person in real life, speaking about the gentleman he met from Poland when he was in college in America. He didn't meet a black person in real life until he came to America. Like Japan, Poland has a very small black population. He thought all black people were like the ones he had seen on television. Okay. He even believed we got lighter when we bathed. And I know about the Japanese commercials. About skin bleaching commercials. And then I know about the gentleman that they had climb up a tree to get a balloon. I've seen that commercial. And I seen a commercial when the black gentleman went into the washing machine and he came out looking the traditional came out looking like the modeled Asian look or the modeled Japanese look. Okay. Continue reading. When all the media dehumanizes us, we're talking about black people, or makes us, black people, out to be monsters, it reinforces the oppressive systems, anti-black systems that I spoke earlier, that Zora Neale Hurston wrote an essay about the pet black system going into the anti-black systems that still operate today in capitalism and in people's diplomacies and politics globally. And also, so that you may know, maybe you do know or you don't, that Zora Neale Hurston is known as the queen of the Harlem Renaissance. If you don't know what that is, you can go look it up. Or you can check out my podcast, Cafe Wish Podcast, on YouTube. And I'm on also Facebook, and then also on Instagram and a few other places. Or you can check out my Substack at Cape and Black. Okay, continuing on. When all the media dehumanizes us or makes us out to be monsters, it reinforces the oppressive systems already in place. It makes people who have never met a black person hate black people. How can someone hate someone when they never met them? And so, speaking of a group of people, I didn't say influence someone to feel a way. How can one group of people, one demographic in America, be presented in a way where someone who's never, quote unquote, encountered a black person, meaning a black American, but it's not just speaking to black Americans, it's talking about black populations globally, but it's hyper focused on black Americans. How can that make someone hate a whole group of people? Now, I'm talking about reasonably. If these are intelligent people here, reasonably, with reason, with strong reasoning, looking at tropes and stereotypes with no proof or any true facts, and no causality to say these people are wrong. What did they do that was evil at that time? Because there's just several things that people could say, well, I saw on the news the other day, I saw on TV. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in that time from the 1850s until the 1950s, what did black people groups do to make someone think that they are evil or bad? Not based upon what people say, what did they factually do? Intelligent Asians? Intelligent Japanese people? Here's a question. All right, continue on reading. All right. This doesn't even touch on how black people view themselves. Because there's a doll test. You should study that up, or go to Cafe Wish Podcast. You can check out material that I have on doll test, or go to my Substack, Cape and Black, and I cover some of the material from the doll test, showing how children put value on the imagery of how dolls look. Little children from 5 to maybe 11, okay, or 5 to 12. How children look at dolls and put a value system based upon whiteness and blackness onto these dolls, these inanimate objects, which actually causes me to think that China just I don't know, I'd seen something on YouTube and on the news how there was this, and also on Instagram and TikTok, on how China has created dolls that resemble black caricatures of black people globally, meaning black Asians, black Africans, black Australians, black Europeans, black people from Europe, I already said Europeans, black South Americans, and black North Americans. Basically all 6 continents, indigenous or non-indigenous black people groups who are either indigenous or non-indigenous, but just black people groups. How China has made, and them being 1/5 black, meaning as majority of their population is genetically black, create dolls, this is according to Dr. Jin Lee, by the way, who's a geneticist. I studied some of his research, not the whole thing, but I studied pieces of it. And I did a little reaction to it on my podcast and also on my Substack. You can go check that out. But once again, I observed that there was a TikTok and an Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube that China had created dolls that resemble black people. Okay. And they would release their frustrations and anger on them. And the causality for why they looked black is because they looked less human. That is white Eurasianism at work. And if that's how their people feel about black people, then that's how they feel about black Asians. That's how they feel about black Australians. That's how they feel about black Africans. That's how they feel about black South Americans. That's how they feel about black Europeans. That's how they feel about black Americans, indigenous and non-indigenous. That's how they feel about their own ancestors who are black and blacker than me. And if you're black, blacker than you. Because if you know about Chinese history, they blackity black. So that's how the modern today or contemporary Chinese, according to what I saw, feel about their ancestors and about black people in contemporary times, globally. That's just my take on it. So, could be wrong, I guess, but I guess they want to do some research on it or something. But anyway, okay, I'm at the hour mark here, so I'm going to continue on, finish reading this article. Okay, this doesn't even touch how black people view themselves. As a child, it was hard for me to find black characters in the nerdy media I enjoyed. I can relate. I can relate to that. When I did find them, they were stereotypes, usually shunted off to the side or existed to make the propagandist look better. That's called whiteness in film, or whiteness in anime, or whiteness in media, or whiteness in entertainment. That's whiteness at work in the multimedia arts. I got that too. So go check out my podcast. You can learn a lot from my podcast and my Substack. Just to let you know. I internalized a lot of that hate. So did I. And I was in college before I was able to reprogram myself. Same here. I know people older than me who are still struggling with that programming. No, this isn't about being offended, but realizing real harm can come from these negative minstrel portrayals, especially when they are far more common than realistic and diverse depictions of black people. Now he said that. LG Care, you said that. Excuse me, LG Ware, you said that. You said, I'll read that again. No, this isn't about being offended, and I agree, but realizing real harm can come from these negative minstrel portrayals, especially when they are far more common than realistic and diverse depictions of black people. And I would say, first let me say I agree 100%, well said, but I'll go beyond that to say, in my own way of saying it, black people groups, indigenous and non-indigenous to all 6 continents, okay, who are black. When reaching for this piece, I was reminded just how hateful anime fans can be. Wow. Although anime is basically ubiquitous, some fans really hate it when black people and women join in on the fun. This can be easily seen in the comment section of any video of a black woman cosplaying an anime character. They feel compelled to, at the very least, point out that X character isn't black. A few years ago, Shirlene, a black cosplayer, posted an image of her cosplaying Rin Tosaka from Fate Stay Night. She took screenshots of all the hateful and racist comments she received. Sadly, this is the norm. And when Shirlene shared her story, other black women came out about their experiences. One person commented, quotation, they hate us just existing, in quotations. I'll read that again. A few years ago, Shirlene, a black cosplayer, posted an image of her cosplaying Rin Tosaka from Fate Stay Night. She took screenshots of all the hateful and racist comments she received. Sadly, this is the norm. And when Shirlene shared her story, other black women came out about their experiences. One person commented, quotations, they hate us just for existing, in quotations. This can be easily seen in the comment section. Okay, read that already? Okay, so I have to ask myself why anime draws in so many people like this. Does anime reflect this mindset? It's a question. It is a diverse art form, and no doubt, some of it glorifies homogeneity or racism. Homogeneity or racism. I agree, LG Ware, I agree with that. Japan is an amazing place, no doubt. However, the reason I value Japan and the reason these fans place Japan on a pedestal is slightly different. It goes back to that word homogeneity. Their fantasy of Japan is an ethnically cleansed place with traditional gender roles. In other words, a eugenic program that has ethnically cleansed its population of indigenous black Asians through genocides effectively during the late 19th century and the early 20th century. But that's just my take on it. Okay. When they see when they see a black person in their fantasy, it angers them. I'm angry. A 16-year-old posted artwork she created of 2 characters from Dandadan. She remade the character as Black Americans. I only saw a child who was inspired by something she loved and created a piece of art. Unfortunately, some Japanese fans were not happy. One person said, I'm Japanese. Stop making Asian characters black. We're not Disney characters, in quotations. First of all, I'm going to react to that. You is black. Indigenous Asians are black. Now, you can mix with all the white genetics you want. You can bleach your skin till the cows come home. You can bleach your soul, as Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois says. You can bleach and whitewash your soul until until Buddha come back. I say that respectfully because Buddha is black. Until Buddha come back, because Buddha is black. Ain't gonna make a difference. You can bleach yourself to the palest of pale. White folks are never going to accept you fully as white because they know you're not, and you know you're not. On the other hand, speaking to this gentleman who made this comment, you must not know your history or your ancestry. And if you do, you must be ashamed of your black ancestors, the indigenous Japanese. You must be ashamed of them. You have to be. And you're right, you're not Disney. But you hold on to white Eurasianism all the same. You're a self-hater and you hate yourself. Whoever wrote that comment. And whoever wrote that comment, please feel free to reach out and comment to this video. I would love to talk to you and I would love to debate you. I would love to talk to you and I would love to debate you. Especially on these topics here. For you to go after a child and comment that to a child, yeah, I would like to talk to you. And I would like to debate you. Okay. Carrying on. This comment received, I'll read the comment one more time. One person said, "I'm Japanese. Stop making Asian characters black. We're not Disney characters." This comment received, that was in quotation, excuse me. I'll read it one more time. Quotations. "I'm Japanese. Stop making Asian characters black. We're not Disney characters." End quotation. This comment received 342,000 likes. The image even made it into Japanese forums like Yoron. I can understand feeling protective of your culture's art. And it shows how complicated these relationships can be even in the most casual situations. The 16-year-old privated her account and was likely spurred away from the anime community and artistic endeavors, at least temporarily. Luckily, despite the animosity, there are plenty of welcoming anime fans, especially in the real world. To be fair to Japan, they are not the only ones to depict other cultures in a negative and stereotypical light. America portrayed Japanese people in the Asian community as horrible stereotypes for decades. Even once they got past the more apparent racism, like yellow skin and a demonic look, America still sometimes presents Asian characters using dehumanizing stereotypes. America is more diverse than Japan, and we still fail to get it right. Japan is over 98% Japanese. The number of black people in Japan is a fraction of half a percentage point. It is no surprise that a single manga artist struggles to depict black people when they have so little firsthand experience and when their only mainstream exposure comes from racist American propaganda? The results are actually not that surprising. That's a BS claim. LG Ware, that's a bogus claim. Bogus means imagining outrageously things that are not realistic at all. That is an unrealistic statement you just made. If the traditional Japanese, according to your point, and this is not me, this is my reaction, this is my opinion, okay? I'm not giving you a jab, not doing a one punch here. I'm just having a conversation with you at this moment in time, reading your material. That's a bogus statement. I understand you're trying to give them, the people who create the manga writers, not to other anybody, but in context, them meaning as the manga writers who depict these quote unquote black characters in racist tropes and stereotypes because they have no real experience with them. So let me go ahead to go along with, and I'm this great intelligent person, let me go along and create characters based upon things I know that are racist and stereotypical and tropes and dogmatic and propaganda of black people, quote unquote, black Americans. To me, that's a BS statement. But I understand you probably have an audience that you're trying to cater to and pander to. So it is what it is in that, but I totally disagree. Nevertheless, manga and anime are getting better at representing black characters. This effort goes back to 1988 and the Association to Stop Racism Against Black People. Nevertheless, manga and anime are getting better at representing black characters. This effort goes back to 1988 and the Association to Stop Racism Against Black People. The association sent letters to creators and companies for problematic or a lack of black representation. It was the association's work that made the more racist depictions taboo in Japan. It was necessary for a Japanese group to do this to spark real progress. Characters like Mr. Popo and Jinx were changed to be blue and purple, which is not necessarily a big change because there are certain things called blurple. And that's not making fun of black people groups, my people who are melanated. That's just what it is. So changing it to blue and purple is not changing anything because you're still not changing the features other than the skin tone. So that's a careless distrust of a movement of progress. But I digress back to this article here. Okay. Characters like Mr. Popo and Jinx were changed to be blue. Characters like Mr. Popo and Jinx were changed to be blue and purple, respectively. Black characters in anime overall have become more realistic and well-rounded. I guess. I am currently watching one called Lazarus. My favorite character is Doug Hadding, a black man who doesn't fall into any of the stereotypes. His skin and hair are realistic. He is an intelligent physics major with an eye for detail. He is calm and measured and tends to plan and lead the group. He is just a well-developed character who receives much care as any of his teammates. Saturday AM, an English-written international shonen manga anthology magazine, is currently publishing Clock Striker. The series is marked as having the first black female shonen hero. Although it did not originate in Japan, Clock Striker is gaining popularity globally, including Japan. Stories like this are refreshing to see and I expect many manga creators to be inspired when they create black characters in the future. I love anime. I love Japanese culture, so do I. I appreciate the styles and stories they share with the West. Anime helped shape who I am today, me too, including my eye for injustice. Japan is not the only culture to use harmful stereotypes in its art and media. Americans are especially notorious for this. Calling out this problem isn't about being offended or having some political agenda. It is about thinking about the humans behind these identities and what we can do as a people to get better. The anime, despite its problems, is an amazing and diverse art form. I agree. I'm excited to see it grow and continue to get better. Well, that was a really, really well-written article. Even though I have my critique of it, even though I gave you my opinion, and my audience, even though I give my opinion and give my little critique, my little 2 cents for it, this is a well-written article, and I appreciate it, and it was informative, and it was something that I can chew upon, and, food for thought. So yeah. But that's all I have for now. And as I say in Cafe Witch Podcast, which I will say here at Nerd Station Network to close out this episode or this video, always remember, everyone, be happy, be smart, and be healthy. I'm Kaden Black, your host. Take care, everyone.